is recorded and put on the website after this as well. So that way we'll be able to go back, and if you have any questions, we can certainly send that out. So basically, we tell students at this point, those students in the junior class, beginning of senior year, start making a list to determine the types of lists, the types of schools you want to look at. Basically, you know, when you're starting a list for students, and when your sons and daughters are saying they want to go away to college, as a family, you have to make a decision. Do you want do your kids want to be in school, you know, in a big school? Do they want to stay local? Do they want to go to the suburbs? Do they want to be in a city? These are all conversations that have to happen. And the most important thing is that when a student is picking colleges, they take a look at the college's websites. They talk to the representatives, and they determine, is this a school that they have the potential to get into, that might be a reach school for them, that might be a target. And all of this information can be found through the school's websites. Additionally, the counselors in the Manasquan office can certainly help you in coming up with target schools. But I think the most important thing is to really take a look and say, you know, if you're interested in criminal justice and you want to go to Rutgers, what is Rutgers looking for? And that information is widely posted on their websites. So making sure you have a list is really the start, and determining, you know, whether or not that's a list and that you can, you know, that your students can afford, that you're, you know, you're confident that you might have the option to be admitted into. So when we talk a little bit about the admission process, the representatives will talk about the application process. Different schools use different application processes for their colleges and universities. A majority of schools, or a large number of schools, do use the Common App, which is kind of like a one-stop shop for the college admissions process. So students fill out the Common App one time. They tailor it to several different schools, and that's the one application that gets submitted to numerous colleges. The coalition, whether or not a student has a traditional, believe it or not, paper applications are still in existence, and also online applications. So students have many different opportunities to apply. One of the things that is really important for our juniors this year, if they have not already, is to take advantage of our online platform. It's called SCORE. For those of you who may have had sons and daughters that went through Manasquan High School prior, we had previously used a system called Naviance. This is the replacement of Naviance. It's a little more user-friendly for the students. So if you take a look at what the apps on the phone looks like, it really kind of looks like a social media type Facebook website. Students have the opportunity to use SCORE to really narrow down the colleges and universities they're looking at. I think students really need to be submerged in what the campus looks like and what the feeling is there. SCORE has the option to see live videos, to, you know, spend different times touring the campus virtually. And given the circumstances, it's so important that students take advantage of these opportunities to go on SCORE and to go onto the college websites, because a lot of schools may or may not be doing in-person tours right now. And so I think it's really important for those students who have not logged on to SCORE, see your counselor. They will make sure that you have the password. Everything has already been sent out, and a majority of you have already joined the SCORE application system. In the fall, primarily, although this spring we're starting to get more visits, these representatives are some of many that take advantage of the college visits and have the opportunity to meet with students one-on-one. So for example, if Monmouth University wanted to come to Manasquan High School Wednesday, April 15th, we would set up a virtual visit. And generally our virtual visits for Manasquan have been between 3 and 4 p.m. when the students are out of school. But virtually, the students are able to talk directly to the representatives. It's really one of the best opportunities to get the face time that you may or may not, you know, have already experienced, and to say, you know, I have questions about Monmouth University. Can you explain to me what the process is for application? And to take advantage of these visits. And unfortunately, I think there's sometimes when college representatives are here, and a lot of students aren't taking as much advantage of it as they should. And so, using your phones, using your computers, it's been a little bit simpler. We talked about one of the things to come out of this year, and I think everybody's feelings about technology and comfort level has maybe increased a little bit. And so, parents, it's important that you take advantage of the opportunities to have a little bit of, FaceTime with colleges and universities. For us in our offices, the things to be looking for in the next couple of months, we are scheduling for next year. So counselors, if they have not already, they will be going to the phys ed classes to pass out our scheduling forms. Once we get those forms back, the counselors will be meeting with the students individually to do the college planning and to do the scheduling for next year. For those of you who are going into your senior year, it's very important that you spend some time with the counselor to talk about the courses that you're choosing and the path that you want to take. In the fall of your senior year, we primarily have, I want to say maybe September, October is when we have our financial aid night. So look for details at the beginning of the next school year for our college financial aid night. And then senior parent night. So for the parents who are on tonight, we generally, before back to school night in September, have our senior parent meeting. And that meeting is when we go over this very specific information about how to apply. And, are we in score, and have we made, began our college our common application, and all of the specific things of the process. So these are a couple of things to look forward to between now and the fall of next year. So basically, the reason that we like to have these events and we think it's so important is because we can talk about schools left and right, and we have a lot of students that are really varying with what they want to do. And so I think it's most important to hear from a very diverse group of colleges and universities and the professionals there. So what we set up for tonight is questions and answers. So I'm going to post the questions that we've received over the time that we spend with the students, the parents. These are the questions that we get most often as school counselors. So we are going to post the questions, and then the representatives are just going to take the floor and give us some information. So most importantly, I value everybody's time here tonight, and I certainly am thankful that the representatives were able to join us. So I really want to start by having each representative introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about the school that you represent. Who wants to go first?
I can kick us off. I'm happy to.
Allison.
Yeah. So hi, everybody. My name is Allie Warwick. I am the regional admissions representative for the University of South Carolina down in Columbia, South Carolina. Super happy to work with students from New Jersey. Always a great bunch. So, if you have any questions about USC, I'm who you would contact. So a little bit about the University of South Carolina. We are a state flagship public institution. We have about 27,000 undergraduates, and we're located right in the heart of Columbia, South Carolina, which is also the state capital. If you're looking at us on a map of the state, we're right smack dab in the center. So we're about an hour and a half from the shore, but also an hour and a half from the mountains. So a little bit about our academic programs. We have over 100 different majors, really anything that you're kind of looking at doing. We have some sort of version of that. And we also allow students to come in undeclared, which is really great for them to have that very intentional exploratory period during their first year if they're really unsure of what they want to do overall, or if they're kind of dabbling between a couple of different things. Student life's a really big piece of the culture at South Carolina. The best way I can really describe our students is very passionate and very involved. Whatever they're involved in, whether it's, just one thing that they do all in, or if they're kind of involved in a lot of different things, students are all about it, and they're very excited to share that experience with their peers. New Jersey is actually one of our top feeder states in terms of where students are coming from. So if you're worried about going out of state and not knowing anybody, my first year at South Carolina, there was more students from New Jersey on my hall than there were from South Carolina. So that's a fun little anecdote that I like to provide to you all. But yeah, I'm excited to chat a little bit more about USC tonight, and the similarities and differences that we have with some of my amazing colleagues here. We're in great company.
Thank you. Katie, Shay, how about tell us a little bit about Brookdale?
Hi, everybody. My name is Katie Shea. I'm the Assistant Director in Admissions at Brookdale, your community college. We are open admission, and we have just over 10,000 students at Brookdale. So hopefully you have been on campus prior to this to see our beautiful campus. We are so proud because Brookdale was just ranked in the top 3 of community colleges in the nation. So we're extremely proud about that ranking. We have a couple different options for our students. We have our traditional transfer programs. We have over 50 transfer programs going on to 4-year schools. And we also have career programs where you can complete your associate degree and then go right out to get a job. We have university partnerships where we partner with 3 different schools, Rutgers, Georgian Court, and Jersey City University, to offer bachelor's degrees right on our Lincroft campus and our Wall campus. And we also have partnerships with over 50 schools where our students transfer on. If you have any questions, I'm available to help. We have the online application on our website. Our seniors are doing it now. And we don't have a firm deadline, but we encourage students to apply by April or May so they can participate in a registration event. So I look forward to taking your questions later.
Thank you. Laura?
Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Yankowski. I'm an admission counselor over at Monmouth University. So to share some information about the university, we consider ourselves a medium-sized private institution. We're comprised of 4,400 undergraduate students and 1,500 graduate students, with our average class sizes being 21 students per class with a 12-to-1 student to staff ratio. So we're not located too far. We're located right in West Long Branch, heart of the Jersey Shore, in my opinion. We are 0.8 miles away from the ocean. So we do have beachfront residence halls for our juniors and seniors as well. So if you enjoy being near the water, then Monmouth might be a great fit. One of the things that we specialize at the university is giving you small, individualized, specialized attention from experts in their fields. So 74% of our faculty have the highest degree possible in their field. And all of our faculty or staff teach our classes. You will not have a single course taught by a TA or a graduate intern. It will be that faculty. So you'll have that opportunity to have that direct connection with a lot of our different faculty members. Also, our maximum class size is 35 students per class, so you'll never be in a super large lecture hall. All of our classes are discussion-based. You can come in as undeclared for the university, and you'll have until the end of your sophomore year to declare a major. We only have 3 direct entry programs that you cannot switch into: nursing, speech-language pathology, and occupational therapy. I would be more than happy to continue this conversation at any time, so please feel free to email, call, text, really whatever most convenient. I'm more than happy to help.
Thank you, Laura. Caitlin, I'm going across the screen, our Brady Bunch sponge screen.
All right. Hi, everyone. So my name is Caitlin Kane. I am one of the admission recruiters here in the Office of Admission at the New Jersey Institute of Technology. Just a little bit about us. We are located in Newark, New Jersey, so about an hour and change from Manasquan. About 12,000 students combined with both undergraduate and graduate students. We are known for engineering. We're also known for computer science, but some more unique majors and majors that you haven't heard about. We have an architecture program as well as interior design and digital design. We also have a really fantastic business program, and we have new majors in data science, financial technology, cyber psychology, and forensic science. So we're really excited about having those types of sciences and kind of twist on something with psychology, putting together technology and psychology together. And yeah, we're Division I in sports. We're part of we just joined the American East Conference. We are one of 4 schools in the nation to proudly call ourselves the Highlander, and the other 3 schools don't matter. So I am so happy to meet with everyone virtually, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you, Caitlin. Miss Danielle.
Thank you, Ms. Kenney. Well, it's good to be here. I love fun facts, so I'm going to share a fun fact with you. We are among such good company. I have literally visited every campus. of all of our panelists. I'm not dating myself, but just saying. So I'm really happy to be here tonight with my colleagues across the globe. I'm Danielle Toglia. I'm representing San Diego State University as your regional director. All that means really is that I'm living also here in New Jersey. I'm your neighbor in Monmouth County, and I work with students from New York and New Jersey who actually would like to travel about 3,000 miles away to attend college in San Diego, California, where currently the temperature is about 78 degrees and almost always sunny 360 days of the year. So I tell my students, please pack me in your suitcase. I don't take up a lot of room, I promise. We are 30,000 students at the undergraduate level, so a very large institution which houses 7 academic schools, including an undeclared. So you can by all means apply to us as an undecided student. I don't love to use the term undecided because I think in essence, students are choosing to be undeclared as they have varied interests and passions, and we want to allow you obviously the ability to follow that passion. You can also apply to engineering, education, business, the arts and sciences, the health sciences, and the performing arts. So there is a lot of opportunity at the undergraduate level at a school our size, about 197 undergraduate majors in total. The only program that you cannot apply to other than through the high school application process is nursing. So Laura mentioned some programs that could be impacted right on her campus. This is a program that is impacted at SDSU. So again, you can only apply into nursing as a senior in high school. And I do mention that. A little bit different than some of my colleagues, we also do not accept the common application as we are part of a public institution, a public process that includes 23 campuses in California. We have our own application process through the CSU system. So you would file that application to SDSU. A very simple and straightforward application that does not include a writing sample. So most students will move through the application quite quickly. But we do want to be careful. It is also an application in which you self-report information. So please be sure that you're doing that carefully, and we can talk in detail a little bit later about what that means. But we are looking solely at your academic work when you're applying to the institution. It's a very big place, I know, but we try to make it as small as possible. So 75% of our classes have less than 50 students enrolled. Our faculty are really well versed and they are eager to meet undergraduate students. Last year, we gave away $148.5 million in research grant money. And our students who work with our groups on campus, our clubs, our activities, over 300 of them, also actually oversee our student recreation center, as well as our aquaplex. If you're not quite sure what that is, you can Google it, but it's basically a series of outdoor swimming pools that exist on the campus, which are quite lovely. And our student center, or what we call our associated students, actually manage a $20 million budget. So it's also a great place for business students if you're interested in finance. The campus is very self-contained, very easy to get around. So I would encourage you to take a look online at our virtual tour and go Aztecs.
Thank you. Marcy, Ms. Rosas.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Marcy Rosas, and I'm Assistant Director of Recruitment and Outreach at Rutgers University, New Brunswick. I also happen to be a proud alumna. Rutgers University is the flagship state university of New Jersey. We were founded back in 1766. We have a beautiful and unique campus that's broken down into 5 smaller campuses, or neighborhoods, if you will, that are right next to each other. Each one has its own distinct personality, environment, feel, whatever you want to call it. I think it's great because students have the opportunity to experience different types of campus settings all within one larger campus. And also a great part of the Rutgers New Brunswick experience is that if you grew up in a suburban area, and most of Monmouth County is, you will learn how to navigate a public transportation system in a really fun, non-scary way. So that's definitely a big plus. Rutgers has about 36,000 undergraduate students. We offer over 100 majors at 7 different schools. So we have our School of Arts and Sciences, which is our liberal arts school, our School of Environmental and Biological Sciences, School of Engineering, the Rutgers Business School, the Ernest Mario School of Pharmacy, Mason Gross School of the Arts, which is our School of Fine Arts, and the School of Nursing. Rutgers is Division I Big Ten Conference Athletics. We also offer over 700 student organizations and clubs from which to choose. But one of the big things I just want to stress is that Rutgers is a premier research university. All of our faculty conducts research, and they all use undergraduate students. We have this wonderful research center called the Arresti Research Center, which acts as a clearinghouse for all of our undergraduate faculty research. And I've heard students refer to it as the Craigslist of research, because it really allows you to shop around and apply for the research positions that you're most interested in, which is great. And actually we have renowned faculties or people that are out there doing groundbreaking research in their fields, winning awards, writing books. It's really not uncommon at Rutgers to sit in a classroom and use a textbook that's been written by the professor who's teaching your class. And I remember being very impressed by that when I was an undergraduate student at Rutgers as well, thinking to myself, wow, there's other students, there could be other students at other colleges using this same textbook, but they don't have the benefit of being taught by the person who actually wrote it. So some of the things I wanted to tell you about Rutgers, New Brunswick. I look forward to providing more information throughout the evening. Thank you.
Thanks, Marcy. And last but not least, Brian from TCNJ.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Brian Swate. I'm the Assistant Director for Transfers at TCNJ, but that does not mean I don't know anything about the incoming first year stuff. So I'm here to help give you that overview as your connect here at TCNJ, but really all of the admissions counselors at TCNJ can answer all of your questions. So if you like talking to me, you can certainly continue to chat with me. I'm totally up for that as well. So if you don't know a little bit about TCNJ, we are the College of New Jersey. I wanted to throw that one in there because I think it's fun compared to some other schools out there that are up in the north. You kind of get the idea. Anyway, so TCNJ, so we are a quick trip right across 195. You could get to us in about an hour. We're in the southwestern corner of Central Jersey. We are Central Jersey. We're not a unicorn. We are a real place. We're just at the bottom right there, about 30 minutes away from Philadelphia, about 10 minutes north of Trenton. So we would love to have you on campus when everything opens back up. But you could come and see us virtually for now. So if you haven't been to campus, we are a circular campus. If you're looking at us from the top down, kind of a bullseye style campus, 1.8 miles around in a circle. So 2 laps, you could certainly get your 5Ks in for the day if you're a health fanatic. We are 260 acres. So if you like a lot of land, we're not that much. You could get to campus pretty much in one area. We don't have a very large campus. About 15 minutes could get you to any point on campus walking. If you're on a skateboard or a scooter, even less than that. We have 7 different schools on campus, everything from the School of Arts and Comm all the way down to the School of Nursing and the School of Education, which is what we were founded on in the late 1800s. We were the school in New Jersey to start teaching students how to become excellent teachers, and that trend has continued to this day. Not only that, we are Division III. We are one of only schools in the nation that are Lions, go figure, and we like to proclaim that proudly. Danielle started with a great fun fact, and one of the biggest facts that have come out of TCNJ lately is 2 of our students in the alumni portion now have been nominated for an Academy Award. So if you're interested in that, the Lucas brothers, who, if you watch 22 Jump Street, they're the 2 twins. They have basically come up with the story for Jonas and the Black Messiah, which is one of the top movies this year. So they co-wrote that story in the movie, and they are nominated. So that is the biggest news happily coming out of TCNJ right now. But maybe you can join us and become part of that alumni story that I am being able to tell other students who are looking to join us as well. I'm sure we have a ton of different coverage to talk about tonight, questions that you have. So I'm going to kind of throw it back to our host here this evening, and we'll go around and come back to you later.
Thank you so much. Okay, so a couple of the things that we were talking about, when we were coming up with questions to ask, and again, one of the big things for students going through school right now, and starting from freshman year, when you're looking at a transcript, what is more important? So we get this a lot. Is it completely based on your GPA in academic level courses? So most high schools have honors level courses, AP level courses, college prep level courses. So when a student is planning for their future and they're planning their transcript, what is more important, a higher GPA in an academic level class, so if you're taking all college prep classes and you're getting A's or B's on it, or a lower GPA, but you're reaching for an honors level or an AP level course. So basically strength of schedule is what we always hear is so important. Are you looking at the courses that students are taking, or are you looking at the actual GPA that they've received in those courses? So if anybody wants to
So I want to start by saying, it's always really most important to think what's appropriate, right? And this answer is really different for every single student, because we want to be sure that you're working with your school counselor to determine what's appropriate for you. And really that means, showing some clarity and maturity in this process, and being honest with yourself and your abilities. And then thinking about maybe some of your strengths and your passions and the direction that you want to take, so that when you are thinking about senior year schedule, you're taking what's appropriate for you in order to complete those courses successfully, right? That's what we're looking at in terms of the college process. Some of us, for example, might have early application deadlines, and so we might be looking more so at the strength of your schedule, because we may see grades slightly later in the process. So we're putting more emphasis there. We're always looking at the types of academic courses you take, and obviously a combination of the rigor of those courses, the grades associated with those courses, the trend in those grades, right? How well you're doing from early in as a 9th grader transitioning to Manasquan to outgoing as a senior, and your senior year schedule. And then perhaps we're looking at, obviously, in addition to the trend in the grades and in your schedule, where you're leaning in terms of a major, right? We mentioned nursing a few times. And so if you are the student that might be leaning toward nursing, for example, as an applicant, if you're not taking a math or science in your senior year of high school, that could be obviously a red flag for us. So keep in mind, again, having conversation with your school counselor about the types of courses that you will take that are appropriate for you is a really mature decision. Having said that, if you think that you're doing quite well in certain academic courses at a college preparatory level, and you can challenge yourself by moving up a level to an honors course, an AP course, a college level course, then I would suggest that you do that, because colleges will be looking at that as well. We'll be looking to see that you challenge yourself, and that might mean that you get a B in an honors course, right, over the A in the college prep course. But we know you're taking on more responsibility and more rigor as your academic, education, progresses. So keep that in mind, please. But again, always what's appropriate, always consider, having conversation before you schedule. And my overall suggestion too is to always take all of your coursework all 4 years, right? We're looking at students who are sitting in a course, English, history, math, science, and language every year for the 4 years. If you're not going to do that, we want to be sure that you're substituting that. I can't substitute English, right? But history, math, science, language with another academic course, if in fact you're not the student that might lean in a certain area. So maybe by senior year, you have some flexibility to remove yourself from that 4th year of language that maybe was your struggle, but you're substituting it with another academic course of your interest and your passion, so that again, it's highlighted for you in the application process. If you decide that you're applying to that nursing program, you're taking 2 math courses, right? It looks just that much better in your application process.
Thank you. I think, from us in the counseling office, what you said is really important. When students come to us as freshmen, they leave 8th grade. It seems like a long time, ago for the students, but oftentimes, if a student is a good student, they're used to getting, consecutive grades, or going into an honors program in a middle school is a very big deal for students. We sometimes see students struggle when they come in as freshmen, because they're in honors classes and so afraid of either dropping to college prep or doing the opposite. And I think, it's a testament to when you go to college, you have the opportunity to kind of play on your strengths. And it really should be the same in high school. And so, we tell students all the time, if they're coming in as, a student who everything was really easy in 8th grade, as a freshman, they need to challenge themselves. But that doesn't necessarily mean they'll be receiving A+ on those transcripts, and that's okay. It's about, the progression, I think, and that's what it gets a little tricky for us in that office. So. This is a big one. Do you consider class rank? So I've worked in several different, I already see the head shaking, and this is really important to me, having been in several different school districts and having seen, the implications of class rank and, all different types of scenarios. I feel as though class rank is very subjective. It depends on the school. It's really comparing, apples to oranges. And so when we talk to parents often, and I understand the student works very, very hard. They want to be proud of it. We have valedictorians, salutatorians. We want them to celebrate all of that. But sometimes the focus of a number is such a heavy burden for some of the students that I sometimes feel like they lose their way in that. So if you can just explain and maybe just let us know, do you consider class rank and why or why not?
So hi everyone, Laura from Monmouth University. We do not consider class rank as part of the review process for the university. Even if a school chooses to report class rank to us, it goes nowhere after they report it. So class rank plays absolutely no process in it. Primary reason, at least for me, I think it kind of speaks to the campus culture that we have at Monmouth a little bit, is that class rank kind of makes it so that you all can't succeed, even if you're all doing well. And here at Monmouth, we feel that you can work together and you can all do well. So class rank isn't really something that we think helps indicate that. Also have a tendency, I've noticed that if the school is super large or super small, it kind of really skews class rank quite a bit as well. So we wanted to make sure that a student who's coming from, a senior class of 35 students all the way up to 700 students, which was my high school, that class rank doesn't play any sort of factor. So we will be looking into the rigor of your transcript. We'll be looking into your letters of recommendation, your Common App essay. I spend a lot of time reading those, the entire application, those sorts of things, but class rank is not something we consider.
Perfect. Does anybody consider class rank? Maybe that's the easier way to put the question.
So I want to interject just briefly because I just want to mention that historically working for a school that does look at all the information that a high school would present, it is the high school's responsibility to, at those institutions, not at SDSU, but historically it's the high school responsibility to either relay the rank or decide not to relay the rank. So as you know, Lesley, you and I have had this conversation numerous times. It really is a sort of Board of Education administration, counseling office sort of, internal discussion. But if you are applying to one of these schools, please do ask this question. If you are applying to an institution that does look at rank because it is included on your transcript, then that school is absolutely looking whether your school ranks 100 students or 700 students. And, again, as Ms. Kenney mentioned, it's not always apple to apple. So please do ask the question.
Perfect. Thank
Can
you.
I also add a point on this too?
Absolutely.
So I think the other component where students and families get hung up on the class rank component piece is the part that they don't get to see. So we all get the form for the school profile on the back end. Not many students and families see that on the front end. So we're looking at how many APs or IBs or honors programs or courses rather are offered at your school and using that information to see where you're taking those courses, how many of those courses you're taking. And I think the other piece to mention going back is the whole anxiety and stress buildup around this process. Students more and more are developing more stresses. Parents are developing more stresses about taking all of these AP courses and honors courses and then worrying about where my son or daughter falls within the class rank. I think looking at what classes are being offered at your school and where you're falling within those classes and challenging yourself within those courses will be better for you than worrying about where you fall with a class rank of, one spot here or there. So definitely going back to what Danielle said, taking those classes that challenge you, but also not hurt you, and consider like weightlifting rules. I wish I could bench press 500 pounds, but I'm going to really severely hurt myself. So similar, if you're really benching or doing AP work, but getting C's or D's in those courses, you might be better off taking an honors course and getting A's and B's in those courses instead of worrying about class rank.
Thank you. I do want to just elaborate a little bit. You brought up a very good point, Brian, these school profile. So every year the school profile is generated by the high school. It is a document. I mean, it's public to anybody who chooses to see it. It is posted on our website, but basically what that does is that gives the Manasquan High School statistics. So when students are applying to college, for the class of 2022 next year, with them and their application will come a document that's the school profile. It will say Manasquan High School offers 15 AP courses. They have 22 honors level courses. The average SAT score, the average ACT score, those types of things. Because, for example, if you are if you are sending an application to a school and somebody from another school is sending that application and they've taken, AP European history, or we don't offer that. So, their college representatives need to see what you've taken as a Manasquan student versus a Manasquan student. And so that's what I think is probably most important for students to understand, that when you submit the application, we're going to base it on, we're going to send everything that we've created a package for Manasquan High School, and that package shows every course that we've given, what our population is, what, how many students are in your class, and all of those things to help the representatives when they're going through, say, oh, this student took, 7, honors level classes. That's good considering the amount of honors classes that Manasquan offers and so forth. So that's, I think, what's really important, and I appreciate you bringing that up.
And that's where we get to compare apple to apple, right? Ms. Kenney, because obviously, what's available to you versus what you're taking advantage of at your particular high school is what we as the admission counselor is looking at when you're applying. We're not going to penalize you if you've never taken advantage of an AP course, if you don't have AP courses at your high school, right? We can't do that. We don't say, hey, why didn't you enroll in an IB, diploma program? Right. You might not have ever heard of an IB diploma program, right? So we're comparing apple to apple. And when we get the profile, it tells us what is available to you at Manasquan. And then your transcript tells us what have you taken advantage of while you've been enrolled at Manasquan.
Exactly. Thank you. Extracurricular activities, are they high regarded, and what types of extracurriculars? Is it athletics, community service? I remember, years ago doing a panel, and somebody made a comment about, should we go to a different country and build homes in the summer? And I think the answer I received from one of the representatives was, no, go get a job and be part of your community and do A, B, and C. You don't need to do these things that are not part of your character and who you are to make a difference, to make an impact. So can you just speak a little bit to what your schools are looking for? I know some bigger schools might not, look so much at the extracurriculars, and some may.
Yeah, I'm happy to share some about this as a representative for a large institution. So extracurriculars are definitely looked at in the admissions process for USC. However, they're going to be very much secondary. The academics credentials are going to be the primary component of the application, what we're looking at. However, that's not to say that we aren't looking at what you're doing out of the classroom, because that truly can be, very valuable information for us. And it helps us get a holistic picture of who you are as a student beyond just what letter grades you got in, XYZ classes that you've taken. So, and also keep in mind that extracurricular activities looks very different from every single student. For example, some students may, want or need to get a job for whatever reason that is. Sometimes it's to assist with family finances. Other times it's just to pay for the car that they really want to buy, or it's just because they want to be spending their time productively. And for that reason, maybe they can't necessarily do a bunch of sports in high school. So work definitely is something to include on the application. If you have to care for a family member, if that's something that's a part of your day-to-day life that is individual to you, include that, because that's also can be a really good reason why maybe you don't have, you're not in student government and you're not in, the captain of the track and field team, whatever. So whatever it is that you're doing to spend your time out of the classroom in a meaningful way, please include it. Don't sell yourself short. This is going to be one of the biggest ways that your admissions counselors and your review committee is going to actually see who you are as an applicant beyond what you're doing in the classroom.
Perfect. Thank you. Anyone else want to jump in? Marcy?
Hi. So I just wanted to add, I totally agree with everything that Allison said. And at Rutgers, similarly, extracurricular activities are looked at as a secondary type aspect of the application, we definitely, our decisions are based primarily on academics. But in terms of extracurricular, I always tell students, do what you love. We are looking not so much for a student that's super well-rounded and has done, you know, people always ask me, do I have to do sports? Do I have to join this type of club, that type of club? We're not looking for well-rounded students. We're really mostly looking for students that have been involved in something that they're passionate about. So maybe it's something that you've been involved in for many years, even since middle school, or maybe it's something where you were so involved and so passionate about something that you founded a club at your high school that didn't exist before, or, you know, maybe you're the state champion in ballroom dancing, you know, but so somehow, you know, you've distinguished yourself. But things like longevity and obviously doing something that you're really passionate about to the point that it shows. So you don't have to be well-rounded. Your interest or your extracurricular activities could be around a certain type of, you know, the same type of field or whatever it might be. I just wanted to mention that.
I also put in one point here too, this whole pandemic situation has created a lot more opportunities that are no longer around. So everyone's been working from home and people have been, you know, doing school remotely, and extracurricular activities are not what they once were. So if you're in a family where mom and dad are out working or in the healthcare field and, you know, you have to be home to take care of your brothers or sisters, I think that's a big part of extracurricular activities in these days today too. The Common App or the Coalition app, whatever you're applying, or even Danielle's app there in San Diego, whatever app you're applying into, depending on how many spaces they have, you might really be looking at only a couple activities that you've been involved in over the past couple of years. And that's totally fine. I think if you, like I said, if you're taking care of your brothers, or maybe you couldn't leave because your grandmother or grandfather was with you and you didn't want to bring the virus home to them, if those are part of your daily routines, absolutely put that in the application. We want to see that you're doing something and not just sitting at home doing nothing, because after school, pre-pandemic, there was a lot of things that people could be out doing. And if you weren't doing anything, we're going, well, what are they going to do here? So now that you're at home and we're at home, we're all trying to figure out the same things. If you're doing research through Netflix and, you know, putting a blog up of your favorite shows on Netflix, write that in. If you're doing something, we want to just see how you would interact with our collegiate class here moving forward as well. There's many students at TC&J who are doing Netflix research, and I get chats about it all the time about joining a Zoom link and watching a Harry Potter movie with them. Totally fine. So however you want to do that, or whatever you're involved in, place something. I'd rather see you be involved with something over the last 4 years than be involved in a variety of different things with no leadership positions and have just 2 or 3 months involved with those two. So keep that in mind as well as you continue moving through this process.
I appreciate that, that Brian, because I think as counselors, we tell students a lot to, you know, tell their story when they're applying. And I think oftentimes they might not understand what that means because they think it has to be this grand story, you know, and this big fairy tale. And it really, especially now, I think it's about, you know, real life and what you've been doing and how you've been, you know, managing and going through this and still, you know, taking care of yourself and others. Which, you know, this kind of brings me to the biggest question that we're kind of receiving right now. So, you know, COVID happens, and, you know, now we're kind of, you know, hoping that we're starting to see, you know, a trend upwards, and you know, and I think we're excited for September. But what are things right now that students really need to know, and the biggest changes for our students due to the COVID pandemic? And if you can maybe tie that into, I know a lot of schools, you know, we've always had test optional schools, meaning if a student is not, you know, comfortable taking a test, or they think it's just not going to help them, they don't have to take a test, and certain schools have been test optional. Right now, a lot more schools have gone test optional, and we get questions, well, should we still take the SATs? As somebody who helps proctor the SATs, I know what a big deal it is. And, you know, so maybe if you could just explain that a little bit to us, and how that's working and what you're seeing, I appreciate that.
I can go. So at NJIT, for the first time ever, we were test optional this year. And for us in the past, in terms of scholarships, things are based on GPA and SAT scores. Because students weren't able to have access to SATs or ACTs, we have gone only basic scholarships off of GPAs. And beyond that too, we kind of shifted in how we review applications. So our emphasis now is on your GPA, academic rigor, and also what kind of classes you've taken. So physics for us is really important, but more importantly, pre-calc or AP, or not AP Calc, but AP Calc's great. Pre-calc or calculus, that's what we want to see. And then we're, at least for next year too, we are going to be test optional. So those were, at least for us, were the biggest changes that we saw on our end.
Perfect. Anyone else?
I can go, Laura from Monmouth University again. So we have gone test optional as well for the first time this year. We have made a decision to go SAT or ACT optional for the next 3 years. So seniors, juniors, and sophomores will have the option of either applying with the SAT or without the SAT. And that is on our Common App or the application on our website that you can check off which way you would like to be considered. We also were basing all of our merit-based awards off of GPA and SAT. In exchange for the SAT, we have gone to an academic GPA. So we'll look at how you're doing in your core classes, your English, your math, your science, your social sciences, and then be able to go ahead and award. The entire process is identical. So it doesn't matter if you go SAT optional or apply with the SAT. We will have the same process going throughout the entire review process.
I just want to talk a little bit in general terms again about the testing, process across the board for colleges, just to educate you a little bit on if you're not that familiar. We're having worked at previous institutions that were testing required and then testing required to testing optional, and now working at an institution this year that is actually test blind, and I'll explain that in a moment. I think I've pretty much seen the gamut, in my 20 plus years. I won't date myself. But I do want to be sure that you as the student understand the testing optional sort of, opportunities. Please, again, here, have discussion with your school counselor about how test optional can work for or not for you in this process, right? The whole opportunity of test optional for schools that offer you this opportunity is so that you can submit or withhold your testing as it might reflect how well you do on an academic daily basis in your coursework. So if you're finding that the testing that you sit for does that, if it reflects who you are as the student, how hard you've worked, the grades that you're getting, then it could be the best opportunity for you to submit your testing, again, in terms of the review process. But if you're finding that your testing doesn't do that for you, then you want to ask questions of the university that you're applying to, because it perhaps is your responsibility to determine if the testing should be withheld. In other words, if you do submit the testing to a test optional institution, it is going to be reviewed and it may not work in your favor, right, if you submit it. So I worked for a test optional institution where it was the responsibility of the student to determine if the testing would work for or not for them. Please be sure that you're doing this because you have the option to withhold if it's not working for you. And if in fact the institution will hold that test score, so to speak, against you in the process, we want to be sure that you're not submitting it. We're test blind this year. What that means for us is that we sort of leveled the playing field in terms of access we find, and we are not adding an SAT or ACT for any student to our process. So for example, if you were applying to any of the 23 campuses in the Cal State system, you would not have to worry about SAT, ACT, when to send, where to send, etc., because we wouldn't be adding that score to your file. But there are very few schools like that make the decision for you. So again, optional is an option, right? And you have to be sure that you are your own advocate. So please be sure that you're having, again, conversation and you're talking to your counselor at how your SAT or ACT could help you. My usual rule of thumb is if you're looking at statistical data, if you're looking at the admission data of the universities and colleges that you're applying to from the previous year, and you think you fall at the very top end of their profile in terms of the data they're offering for testing, then it could be a good idea to submit the testing. If you're usually falling in the bottom half of that data, then again, it might not be a true and accurate reflection of both who you are as the student or of the admission profile that the college or university is looking for admitted students. So just be careful again and have conversation, okay?
So Danielle, we had this conversation when we spoke, and I think, you know, at like in the most simplistic terms, like I said, as a parent. So if I have if my son or daughter takes the SAT and your school was the median score 1100 to 1300,
then I would generally recommend that you're submitting the score if you have above a 1300 and you're in the top, let's say 25% of that pool. But let me tell you sometimes, Ms. Kenney, why you shouldn't. Right? Okay. You could still be in the top 25% of that pool, right? Mm-hmm. That means that you're in the top 25% of the students that also were applying last year with SAT scores that looked like that were admitted. Right. But you're the valedictorian of your high school. Right. And the valedictorian of your high school, I guess, should be getting more of a 1480 instead of a 1380, right? Or a 1280, maybe even a 1500, right? Depending on obviously the type of courses they're taking, the grades that they're getting, the rigor that they're sitting in, because they're the #1 student in the class. Mm-hmm. And if that SAT score or ACT score is still not reflective, right, of that student's participation in their academic coursework on a daily basis, that score can still work against them, right? So you have to be real careful in terms of how schools are looking at test optional, mm-hmm, what they're using the data for, and how they're making the decisions with it. Okay. Now, and do you encourage students to ask the representative to ask your questions about that? I do, and we expect some transparency right on our side. I hope, you know, from the representatives, you know, that are offering the information and how it's used in terms of, you know, the review process. Okay. Anybody else in terms of, I guess, you know, is there any other, you know, I guess major, aside from, because that's the question I think we're getting the most about, what to expect with not being able to take a, you know, standardized test. Anything else specific to, I guess, COVID, you know, COVID in general that is potentially, you know, working for or against applicants?
I could just add one other piece that, you know, just keeping it realistic with everybody. We're all in the same situation as you are. We don't have all the answers at the same time that many think we do. So sometimes we're finding out things the day of, and that's going out. And we might get you know, something from the president this afternoon, and then we have an event like this at night. That's usually how it rolls. So many times we're getting questions and emails and phone calls to our offices that we don't have the exact answer to. So we're not trying to, you know, be mysterious or illusionists at the same time, but we just don't have the answers. So that's one of the biggest changes, I think, that leveled the playing field completely, is that we are all looking at the top going, well, what's the next thing to come? So I think that's one of the biggest things. Like I said, we're not trying to hide anything from you. I think we're all my colleagues up here are in the same boat, saying that we want to be as transparent as possible and give you the best possible answers to any of your questions to help make you feel comfortable in this process. But there's just some questions that we don't have the answers to as well. But the other point, I always tell when families ask me about test optional, if it was me and I had the ability to do test optional, boy, that would have been amazing when I was in high school. I did terrible on the SATs, and I don't want anybody in the history of Earth to uncover my scores. So if I had the ability to go test optional with what I just said, I would do that and not submit my scores. But maybe if you're the family who hang the scores on your fridge, if people still do that, I don't even know if people still do that anymore, and you're very proud of your scores, submit them. Up to you. But like Danielle said, check with each individual institution that you're looking at, because they could come into play. The other part with New Jersey, with the praxis exams for teachers moving forward, the test score might be something that helps benefit you moving forward with the praxis tests. So keep that in mind. Maybe hold off on the test scores if you feel like you're kind of on that bubble. And then once you've been admitted, you could still submit them at a later date to kind of give you that help with the praxis scores when working with the School of Education. So just a little pro tip for you there, but really it comes down to what you're feeling comfortable doing with submitting your test scores. If you really feel happy about your scores, maybe you go for it. If you kind of feel you're on the bubble, maybe you hold back. But if you're like me, I'm not sending them at all. I don't want anybody to know I ever took them.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Necessary to declare a major, I think a lot of you kind of touched on that already. Aside from nursing, right, and a couple other programs, I think Laura, you had mentioned that most schools have. Am I correct in saying that most schools have the opportunity to go in and not have to declare a major at the beginning? Okay. Can you explain the process when you evaluate a student's transcript? So this is a little bit more similar. I guess we touched upon it a little bit, but I've had parents ask me recently, for a student, Manasquan High School, our students take 8 classes a year. And so 150 credits is their requirement. It's a very high requirement. Now, a lot of other schools and a lot of other students are taking that many classes, but is there a point when you're looking at a transcript that you're not really looking at a lot of the additional courses in terms of acceptance into a program? So for example, if you're taking a humanities or communications or additional art classes, are you looking at those courses for admission applications? Anyone?
I'm sure if we all answer the question, you'd get like 8 different answers, or, I mean, it really, our silly answer and everything in admission is it depends.
Okay.
And I don't mean that to sound silly, but because it is. But I think that when for us, it's a very straightforward process. We look at English, history, math, science, language, and elective, and a visual and performing art. Whereas, at my previous institution, we removed art, music, dance, theater, painting, ceramics, pottery, computer technology, financial literacy, gym, none of that was computed. It was only academic coursework. Whereas I'm at an institution now where we look at 2 semesters of art, music, dance, or theater. So again, it's a really good idea and to get a good sense to do your homework in terms of what the school is looking at in terms of what those academic components are. But even more so, when we say recalculate GPA, right, we're pulling apart the academic body of work. We're taking a look at your profile. So what does an A mean? And then we're putting it back together on our own scale.
So does it really matter then, Danielle? It does. I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but we get a lot of questions about, are we on a 4-point scale, 5-point scale?
No, you don't need to worry. You don't need to even know or understand any of that in terms, control the things that you can and dismiss the things that you can't. And unfortunately, you as the family, you don't need to worry about that or know about that or really even sort of understand that portion. It doesn't really matter. You can't change, how the information is offered. So if it's a 92 and 100 and it's an A, you have an A if you have a 92. If you were at the next school, you might have a 92, but it's a 93 to 100 for an A and they have a B. But again, that's school to school, that's sort of internal. I think most important is to understand that when you come up to us at a college fair and you say, I have a 3.75 GPA, should I apply? And we say we have no idea, you understand what that means, because just looking, at the information is not allowing us to make an appropriate, holistic decision. We need to see everything. We need to see the full picture for all 4 years.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. When can a student expect to receive an acceptance decision? And I know based on the information we gave before, it really does depend on when they're applying. So for example, if a student wants to apply to school, early action, early decision, their application will be looked at sooner. Generally, can you maybe just explain a little bit when the majority of your decisions come through, and when a student who is applying regular decision, I mean, generally when do you look to get those in the mail or via email, however you send them out?
Just for Rutgers, I want to say this year we did allow students more time to get their academic credentials into us. And because of that, we did extend our reply dates. So for students who applied early action, which was November 1st, they received decisions by February 15th, and then students who applied regular decision, which the application due date for that was December 1st, are getting guaranteed to get a decision by the end of this month, March. So I'm not sure if that's going to be the timeline again for next year, if we're going to still extend that due to COVID. Normally we get the decisions out a little bit earlier because we only give students about 2 weeks to get their academic credentials, and this year we gave students a month. But typically students will start rolling out our financial aid offer letters and scholarship offers in mid-February, usually is when students start hearing about that for Rutgers.
So oftentimes you'll get your acceptance before you get your financial aid package.
Yeah, you
Right.
typically get the acceptance first, but it just depends if you applied early action or not. So you'll get the acceptance first, and then later you'll get the package.
Anyone have something totally different?
I do. I do. At Brookdale, we're open admission,
Okay.
so we accept everybody, which is great. You're going to receive your acceptance within just a couple hours, usually closer to 24 hours. And then you'll work with our financial aid office to receive your financial aid. And that will go right to your email. And you can also check that on your Brookdale portal. So all of that is handy for the parent and the student.
I was going to say for at least NJIT, I read the applications from Manasquan and from Monmouth County. So hopefully you guys like me. But I try to get decisions out back to students in about 2 to 3 weeks. Sometimes in December, it's very busy because it's the holiday season and everyone's applying at a very similar time. So it might take longer. But for the most part, I try to get decisions out fairly quickly. And with our financial aid and acceptance letters, the merit scholarship, if you are awarded merit aid, is included in the acceptance letter. But for the most part, the financial aid package is emailed to students later. And that's another thing. We're doing email this year in terms of financial aid. We learned that after I was like telling everyone, I was like, check your mailboxes. No, just check Gmail or whatever you put on your Common App. Our communication is going to go through that.
And we are probably unlike any other school in the panel, and I'll be very transparent. You cannot apply to merit awards at SDSU until you deposit. You're an admitted and deposited student because we get 110,000 applications a year, and we just can't move through the process that quickly, to be honest. So you would receive your financial need-based package if you filed FAFSA, and that would be done through your web portal, as my colleagues mentioned, and would be after admission, but you would only apply to what we call the Aztec scholarships after you were a deposited student.
Does it matter does it help a student if they apply early as you're going through the process? So when you're starting the application, the first application you get, does that make a difference in terms of the admission? Okay.
I just think the earlier the better, just because you're going to have more time to make a decision.
Okay.
And I mean,
but that also depends on the I'm sorry, Danielle, that also depends on the round that you're applying for.
Yeah.
So if it's early decision, restricted early decision, all that stuff that comes into play as well too. But the other part that a lot of families also don't know is that financial aid is waiting for us to make those decisions. So even if you filed your FAFSA forms before you submitted your applications and you thought about it, oh, maybe I'll apply to this school, they have to wait for us to give them the quote unquote key to unlock your FAFSA form. So you're not going to get that information until they're able to process that information as well too.
Okay. Thank you. And one of our questions towards the end here are anything very specific, and I've heard different things over the course of the years, like when I first started, demonstrated interest, meaning if, my daughter is really interested in South Carolina and she, is emailing Allison and she's visiting, and do those things make a difference when you're looking at applications and status, being a legacy, meaning if somebody in your family gone to that school, if you have the opportunity for a personal interview, even if schools, I don't even know if they're all doing them at that point, do any of these things make a very big difference when you're looking at applications and admissions?
So for South Carolina specifically, the answer is very easily no, no, and no.
Okay.
As much as I love communicating with my students, it's, it really does bring me a lot of joy in the job that I do, and talking with students, it's purely informational. It's not, we're not logging it. We're not keeping track of it. And being a legacy is awesome. It's going to make your visit to our campus a lot more fun with your mom or dad who went to our campus however many years ago, but it does not go into the consideration for your decision.
Okay. Anyone else? Anybody have anything different? No? Okay.
I think that's a good question.
And I guess I think the last question that we have is, we talk about students getting into college. What happens when they're seniors and they're ready to leave college? As a parent, it's very, very important to me that when my son or daughter graduates, they have a job. And what types of jobs are out there, and how do your schools assist in, retaining the students year to year, and really making sure that when they're leaving, they have the opportunity for job placement programs. Do you have those types of services on campus?
All right, so I may have the most unpopular opinion on this question, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway. And if I get my head chopped off on this, that's totally fine. We get this question so many times of what's your job placement rating and how are you going to get my son or daughter a job after graduation? To be honest with all families, you're paying for the education at whatever school you go to. You're paying for all those programs. You're paying for all those extracurricular opportunities to be involved, to do internships, if you're able to study abroad, whatever it may be. So being able to get involved with the job or the career center on the campus is one thing that a student should absolutely get involved in. We could say we have X amount percentage of students who graduate with jobs, but if a student's not going to the interviews, if they're not going to the internships, if they're not actively seeking to better themselves in those ranges, those job placement rates won't mean diddly for anybody.
Right.
So I say it as it's probably a very unpopular opinion, but the more that a student is involved on campus, the more that they're meeting with their academic advisor or career advisor, the better off they'll be, regardless of the program that they're involved in. So like I said, you're paying for the education, you're paying for all the bells and whistles of whatever school you go to. This is another part of that program. This is another part of the tuition and fees and everything that you're paying for. So you should absolutely take advantage of those, because college is the thing that'll get you to point C, which is that career. So how do you get from point A to point C? You got to go through B. And B is everything involved in that. So definitely take advantage of flipping every stone that you're available to you, if you can, without going crazy on campus and being involved. But those things will set you up for success, instead of just sitting there going, well, the job career placement person didn't get them a job, but they didn't go to any of those meetings. So I know it's a very unpopular opinion. I'm sorry, I'll back up. But for real, and I'm sure a lot of my colleagues will agree with this, but if you're not doing the work, there's not much that our offices can help you with. We boast, and we sure all have very good job placement ratings with a lot of high-tech companies and, Fortune 500 companies and whatever they may be, startups and everything else in between. But to have the student go to those sessions, to meet with those advisors, to do the work, to meet and present with a handshake and a resume and present themselves in that manner will definitely go further than just presenting what percentages we offer jobs for. So I hope that helps. And bring on the mob, I guess.
Oh, so. And I appreciate that. And I think last year you said, Brian, and it stuck with me too, that if you're waiting until you are a month before graduation before you're walking into the job placement office, that's a problem. Like similar to if you're waiting until September 1st of the summer after you graduate to consider college, those types of things. It's kind of about planning, and I just remember you talking about that last time.
Absolutely. And as a freshman going into, the school, there's no reason that you can't stop into the career office and say, hey, I'm Brian, I'm a freshman here. I'm part of the communications program. I look forward to working with you guys moving forward. Those career placement workers will definitely know your face and name by the time that the internship fair comes around or the career fair comes around. They're going to email you and go, well, Brian was in here a couple times already and he's definitely interested. So I'm going to shoot him an email and let him know that this is coming to campus. That will set you up for success, and that will get you on the resumes to say, I did this as a sophomore. I was doing internship work here. I was doing researchship with Johnson & Johnson, whatever you're interested in. Being outspoken and doing the things that you want to do and leaving no stone unturned will get you to those places you want to achieve faster than just showing up, rubbing the sand out of your eyes, waking up from sleeping and going to an internship fair and going, I'm graduating next month, so what can you offer me?
Right.
The work you put in now is definitely worth the work you put in later.
Yeah, and I think, no matter if you go to a school with 1,000 students in a class or 10,000 students in a class, nobody's going to take you by the hand and bring you to the career services office or to the admission office or to the financial aid office and say, this is what you need to do. This is who you need to talk to. You need to be your own self-advocate. This is a time when you're going to need to sort of step up. You're going to have plenty of support. You need support with an academic course, a tutor, and you're not doing as well, or you want to catch up, get ahead, a writing tutor, it's available. You want to, think about, financial aid in your appeal, and you want to think about endowment scholarships because you're going to move from freshman to sophomore year and your tuition is going to increase, and how are you going to offset that cost? You need to go to financial aid. If you are the student who's looking to transfer from the 2-year school to the 4-year school, you need to find your transfer counselor and talk about your transcript and where you're going to go next in terms of maybe your 4-year degree. So nobody's going to take you by the hands and lead you to it. You really need to think about, being your own self-advocate, asking questions for yourself. It's okay that you don't know the questions, but as long as you know perhaps to get to the right office or seek out the help of your professor to get you there, or your mentor or your advisor or other students in your classes, there's plenty of opportunity on the college campuses to support you, once you get there. I'm also a firm believer that unless you're really going for a very specific degree, we're educating you in skills that should be transferable to anything that you want to do. If you ask all of us what our degrees are in, they're probably not most of us in education. Maybe not at the undergraduate level, at least. I've worked with counselors in my office that have had a math degree, to a PhD in psychology and everything in between on the higher ed side of the desk. So, think about ways in which you can research better, write better, speak better, present information better, right? All of those transferable skills that you'll need, whether you want to take your business degree and work in international affairs, or whether you want to take your art degree and teach for America, or, whether you want to be a music major and then, go on to work in music education or therapy. So there's so much that you can do at the undergraduate level with an undergraduate degree. Again, very specific, engineering, BAMD, programs, a little bit different, nursing. But there's also avenues to get you there, if that's not where you start, so be encouraged that you're going to a liberal arts university with a lot of resources.
If I could just jump in too, at Brookdale, we have a career and leadership office. And a lot of times students don't realize that they can start that freshman year, sophomore year. So that's a huge office. We work with our students to do internship, resume writing, interview skills, just, doing that whole package for the student, whether they're transferring on or going out to the career field. It's definitely skills that you can begin freshman year. And just like Brian and Danielle said, the student has to be the advocate for themselves.
And all the departments on campus speak to one another. So you might have a conversation in your academic advisor's office, and they reach out knowing someone's doing research in another department. Whatever it may be, like as big as a campus may be, we're really small and close connected. We have the ability to connect with different offices. And if you're interacting with us, we'll definitely take care of doing that component and say, oh, I remember that this happened, and we'll reach out to this person, so on and so forth. But this isn't meant to stress anybody out. This isn't meant to freak anybody out. This is, we want to be open and honest in that transparency. So we really are all counselors up here at the end of the day. We are here to help guide you and counsel you every step of the way. And then once your son or daughter is on campus, whatever campus it may be, there's plenty of other people that take over and move forward with your son or daughter at that point as well too. So we're all in this together is really what it comes down to.
And, I just want to add one more thing, and then we'll open it up to questions. But, we often have students that, might have a first choice or second choice, and they don't necessarily get into that school. And, we get questions, well, now what? Transfers, most students either switch a major or maybe transfer, colleges or universities. Transfer students are wonderful. I think a lot of colleges and universities would probably agree that they welcome transfer students. And if a student is not comfortable going away right now, or they need to give themselves some more time, or maybe they didn't have a great senior year. I can't say enough wonderful things about Brookdale and the community colleges, and the fact that, you certainly have an opportunity to get where you want to go. Your path might not be exactly the same. It might not be the way that you expected it to be, but there are so many opportunities opportunities. And I tell students all the time, take your time, figure out what you want to do, take some classes, and then, transfer. Your degree at the end of 4 years is where you ended, So I think that's important, as well for a lot of our students. So.
I just think also, sorry, I keep going back and I'm taking up everybody's time here, so I apologize. But a lot of people don't know. And Kathleen, I'm going to jump in and throw some fire at you real quick because it's great news.
Yeah.
Brookdale is one of the top community colleges in the entire nation that a lot of people don't know about. Yeah. So if that's one of the things that you want to go ahead and do that. Transfer. There's nothing wrong with transferring. Transferring is amazing. Set yourself up for a lot of different things. You got a lot of different experiences to bring to a classroom. So if that's what you want to do it. And you have one of the best community colleges in the nation to do that with. But there's a comment saying you just want your son or daughter to be happy and succeed. They will be very happy and successful if you encourage them to be happy and successful. So being motivated and supportive in that stuff will help encourage them to be happy and successful. So I just wanted to also point that out.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So these were essentially the questions that that we talked about, and I think most of you have. This is exactly what you've been talking about. Finishing strong junior year, taking classes that represent who you are, telling your story on applications. I think these are all things that we convey to students and parents when they come into our office. But again, like you said, you're counselors at a different level and doing different things, and you're answering different questions. So I really can't thank you enough for joining us and for spending time with us. I think it's so valuable to hear from different places, different opportunities. And I always joke, I wish I could go back to college. It was, so much fun, I don't think you realize it when you're there because you're just looking for the next, how you get to, point C. But it's a wonderful experience. And, once you remove the stress out of it, you really need to take it and kind of, enjoy every moment. So we're going to open it up to some questions. And then, again, if those of you who, don't have any questions, feel free to log off. For those of you who do have questions, if the questions become a little bit too, longer, then we certainly can use the chat and we can get back to you, via email with the representatives. So does anybody have a question that we can answer? I believe you probably have to either type in the chat or unmute. Anyone?
Question. I know, I kind of typed it in, but the whole the test optional.
You're kind of breaking up a little bit.
Oh, you know what? Because I have my earpods in. Let me see if I can turn them off. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. The test. So I give the example of I had two friends in college. One was really strong, a straight A student, but really struggled with SAT. Obviously that would be somebody who would opt out of the test optional, right? But does it help to put in the test, the SAT, for somebody who is a decent student, but not when you look at these scales, because we're going off of books, we're going off of the internet, the range, there's a big range for some of the schools, 1,200 to 1,400, lowest, whatever. And I think it's going to be skewed because of COVID, right?
Yeah.
So, so if you're on the lower end of the GPA, is it going to hurt? It's going to help, right? Or are they just not even going to look at it for the most part because everybody's test optional?
Well, the first thing I would say is you're not looking anywhere but the college website for that stat. So you're not looking at a book, and you're not looking on Naviance, and you're not looking in a, whatever. You're not listening to somebody else in the grocery store line at Acme. So please be sure that
college websites, it's hard to find, right?
It should be right on the facts page. It's usually pretty transparent, where we list our 50th percentile and our GPA and that type of information. It's like our profile for the college.
Okay.
So please be sure to look there, just because that's the most accurate information from the previous year's class.
Okay.
So that'll tell you for this year with COVID and, everything that happened, that's what the scores looked like of the students that submitted. And usually there's a breakdown of the percentage of students that may have also submitted. So it might say 65% of the students from last year's class submitted SAT scores, and those scores were between, like you said, 1,200 and 1,400.
Okay. So if you were at the bottom end, does it even make sense to submit them or no? Yes?
Well,
if you're in the realm?
I mean, so in my opinion, if you're in the bottom 25% of the pool, then you're only right. Then that the likelihood of you being admitted is 75% less than the other students that scored higher than you.
Okay.
But again, I would encourage you to have really direct conversations with the counselors of the school. Well, your son or daughter to have, conversation with the counselor of the school that they're applying to.
Okay, with the counselor of the school you're applying to, not the high school counselor. Okay, good. Okay.
And your high school counselor to guide you on ultimately to submit. But you can ask us. We'd be more than happy to let you know how we're using scores and where, what they mean. And
So, and then early admittance, I've heard some different things. Like, so early admittance, is that, I posted in there, I don't know. Like, so early admittance that you put in like May, June or whatever, or July, I don't even know what the dates are. Is that about financial aid, or is that about admittance into school?
Loaded question, right?
Because I'm going to be honest, I was an athlete, so like when I was applying to schools, I like waived my financial aid, or I'm sorry, my soccer scholarship, because I knew I would get financial aid. By the time I got
totally doesn't work like that. Yeah, it's a totally different. So there are 3 different types of aid. There's need, there's academic, and there's athletic and talent. So you could be receiving a combination of all of those, but that could be separate from merit, which also could have a bearing on how you apply. So if you apply early decision, a school might offer you less merit versus if you apply regular decision, but your chances of being admitted are less, but your chances of receiving money are greater. I mean, it's a little bit of a complicated process.
Early admittance isn't about your chances of being accepted.
Yes,
financial.
Yeah, sure. So early decision and early action versus regular decision or rolling admission could be about both your decision to be admitted and your financial aid review process.
Okay.
Your baby, giving them a bath.
Thank you. That's helpful.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? I see a couple hands raised. I don't know how to get to them. If you have a question, just shout it out.
Lesley, if you open participants, you can see whose hand is raised. All the way to the left. There you
go. Joseph Kennedy? Oh, okay. Unmute. Got it.
He's at soccer. But my question for all of you thank you for all your all the feedback you've given, and all. I took notes because I'm a teacher. So he's my oldest of 4. So I'm not sure, like, what do you guys think of these people that charge you now to go, they're like advisors of colleges? Because he wants to study architecture, but my concern is finding the right school.
Oh, Caitlin.
Oh, look who's excited.
And actually, right, Caitlin, I mean, architectural programs are so limited that search, I think, would be slightly easier, maybe, or narrower, because there are not as many architectural programs in the United States, no?
Yep, we're the only, I believe we're the only accredited undergraduate program in New Jersey for architecture. So come on over. The water's great.
So come on over. But do you guys recommend these people that charge like $1,000 to help you find the right
They don't
school?
charge $1,000, Ms. Kennedy, by far.
Oh, well, I don't know. He's my oldest, so by the time I get to the 4th, I'll just kick him out to college.
You have three counselors right here that you could go see for free every day in your counseling office.
And honestly, I mean, like I said, I have so much respect for independent counselors. I think they do a wonderful job. I do think that a lot of independent counselors potentially, our counselors, I'll be honest, our counselors have 250 students on a caseload. Any student that walks into our office, any question, any amount of support we can give, we certainly will. I think that if a family and a student is looking for hours and hours of prep work and essay writing and all of those things, then maybe potentially, but I mean, I would say 90%, maybe even more, 95%, 99% of our students are not using independent counselors, and we are walking them through the process.
Brookdale has architecture too.
Okay, thank you. I'm since I'm the mom, do you answer, can I also contact the counselors? Because I'm not sure how much he'll do initiate.
Of course.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
And I see Cassandra Sealy.
I've taken a few of the Rutgers healthcare courses and I've earned the college credits for them. Are they going to transfer to like all of these schools, and what would they transfer as?
I think we'd have to look at your transcript to see what the course is and if it, falls into your major. So it would really be on a course by course and major wise for Brookdale. And I would think other schools too.
Generally, colleges are going to ask you to get your Rutgers transcript to show it. Yeah, and I know for Rutgers, for students that are taking courses at other institutions, after they're admitted, they will be asked to submit a transcript from that particular college, and each institution will decide whether it transfers or not.
Yeah, but I mean, the nice thing about being at a Brookdale, right, Katie, is you have reciprocal agreements with four-year institutions and
Correct.
like
Yep.
Rutgers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We have partnerships where the credits have already been determined that they'll transfer over. There's a great website, njtransfer.org. You can enter the classes that you have taken at Brookdale, and it will tell you how it transfers over to the New Jersey colleges.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions?
I'm just wondering if you guys, I know some of the reps have put the their emails in the chat. If everyone could do that, please, from all the universities and colleges. We so appreciate all your insight.
And I will be posting the PowerPoint and their information, their names, the universities that they represent, and their emails will be on that PowerPoint as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Well, again, I want to thank everybody. I think that this is probably, our most valuable evening event that we host for our students and our families for so many reasons. I appreciate everybody's time. I appreciate the questions. This has definitely been a unique year for so many people, and a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety we've seen. And I feel like just talking to you all, it has been really encouraging and exciting. And I think for parents going into this process for the first time, I think the message is, ask for help, ask questions, don't be afraid to explore all the options, because they certainly are there. So again, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Certainly reach out to the school counseling office here at Manasquan if you have questions, and enjoy everybody's night. Thank you so much. Happy Friday tomorrow, and we will talk to you all soon. Bye, everyone.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone. Bye-bye.